For years, I was intimidated by our wood stove. I knew nothing about installing one, let alone operating one, and honestly, it sat in the corner of our unfinished shed to home project, staring at me like, "You pathetic failure." I could practically hear it mocking me every time I walked past. But one day, I'd had enough. Today I'm going to share how I finally installed our Jøtul wood stove, how it changed our tiny home forever, and everything I wish I knew about heating your house without electricity. This is the story of how we built a tiny home that heats itself. Welcome back to the Homestead. If you've ever felt unqualified, overwhelmed, or convinced you'd mess something up, this story is for you. Because I felt all of that and more.
Something tells me this might be a bad idea.
But a self-heating, off-grid home doesn't come from perfection. It comes from courage, mistakes, and doing one small step at a time. When we first got this shed to home building, the wood stove sat in the corner looking beautiful and completely useless. For years it sat there, a reminder of everything I didn't know how to do. Installing a wood stove, cutting through walls, chimney pipes, I had no clue. And every time I looked at it, the fear grew larger. But at some point, you get tired of feeling stuck. So I finally decided, either this stove becomes the heart of our tiny home, or it becomes the excuse that keeps us freezing forever. The very first step was making a safe platform for the stove. I grabbed some 1 foot by 1 foot concrete landscaping stones, laid down cement board underneath, and boxed them in with some furring strips. It wasn't beautiful, but it was done, and that was all that mattered. The scariest part was cutting a hole through the wall. This was the biggest mental block for me. Cutting a hole through the wall felt like a point of no return. What if I measured wrong? What if it leaked? What if I destroyed this entire home? I bought a Duravent through the wall kit. I watched tons of videos on installing them, but honestly, each video made me feel less confident. So I measured and remeasured, and probably measured about 10,000 times. Then one day, I just did it. And as soon as that saw blade went through the siding, a massive weight lifted off my shoulders. I had taken the hardest step. Once the pipe went through the wall, I felt amazing. Until I realized I still had to run triple wall pipe up past the roof line. The first section went on easily. The second one wasn't too bad. But the third and beyond, carrying awkward heavy pipes up a ladder when you're not used to heights, that's a special kind of misery. I eventually called some friends for help, and when we finally locked that last pipe in place, it felt incredible. I wish I could say the hard part was over, but then came the moment I lit my first fire. I grabbed wet logs, soft wood, threw everything into the stove, lit a match, and immediately smoked out the entire house. Not once, not twice, multiple times. And I felt very defeated. Then our neighbor, who had just gotten rid of their wood stove, offered us their entire wood pile of hardwood. Suddenly we had wood, but nowhere to put it. So I quickly threw together a little woodshed. It's far from perfect, but it keeps the wood dry. And now it also doubles as a solar roof. Then I bought a splitting maul and discovered something I didn't expect at all. I love splitting wood. There's something about the act of chopping wood that is so freeing, so primal. It's not just a chore, it's survival. It's the very first order of business every morning, and every swing of the maul feels purposeful. It's a task that must be done if you want to keep your home warm, but it's also one of those tasks that leaves you feeling accomplished the moment you finish. It makes you feel strong, grounded, alive. Our wood stove truly is the heartbeat of our home. It heats our house using surprisingly little wood. It cooks our food. It heats our water. It even dries herbs and clothes. It's the center of our off-grid life. But that means procuring wood becomes part of daily living too. I use a top-rated maul from Amazon, and for smaller pieces and kindling, a cheap hatchet I got from Harbor Freight. And kindling, that's the unsung hero of starting a fire. With our wood split and drying fast under the shed roof, everything became so much easier. Here's the part that makes me feel stupid. The first few times I tried lighting the stove, I forgot to open the flue. Yep. I tried starting fires with the flue shut, so there was no airflow, no draft, nowhere for the smoke to go. So Surprisingly, we smoked out our house quite a few times. Once I finally pulled out the lever and opened it, it was like magic. I had no idea until I started playing around with the stove one day. Then the fire burned beautifully. Maybe reading the manual first would have helped, but you live and you learn. After watching a ton of videos, here's what worked for me. I like to put big logs on the bottom, medium-sized pieces in the middle, and then the smallest pieces of kindling on top. When I'm first starting the fire, I try not to pack the firebox too tight, so it has some room to breathe and get started. And then once the fire gets started, I will slowly start adding more logs. When I stopped forcing the fire finally worked. Another really important piece of equipment that I acquired after trying to start a fire a few times with just matches is this portable mini torch that has made fire starting really a lot more efficient because it allows me to, for one, heat up the entire stove very quickly at a very high temperature, which also helps eliminate any smoke coming into the room. But it also helps me start the fire more evenly in the fire so that it is lit from all different sides and not just one section of the fire gets started before any of the others. I can evenly spread out the flame so that it's a nice steady fire. Our Jøtul stove is small, but perfect for our 500 square foot tiny home. Our morning routine has become starting the stove very early in the morning, right when we wake up. We'll let it heat up the house to about 75 degrees. And then we'll let it burn out by noon because it will make the house almost too hot and uncomfortable very fast. And then throughout the day, we will coast from the warmth that it created in the morning from the early morning fire. In the evening, if it's very cold and freezing outside, we will start another fire in the wood stove. And I will keep a few dry logs nearby beside the stove so that we can maintain it. If we need to come down throughout the night to keep it alive, we can easily throw in a few more logs. This stove heats up very fast, sometimes too fast, but I think that's a good problem to have. I'd rather be more warm than worried about being too cold. The stove doesn't just heat our home, it also cooks our food. We've used it to heat water for coffee, make soups, stews, even fry eggs. It's slower, but intentional. Old-fashioned in the best way. I love cooking over the wood stove. Our next order of business is going to be getting a big water kettle with a spigot so we can heat up the water over the stove and use it for washing dishes with nice warm water. Some days I stare at our stove with the fire rolling, and I remember the years I was afraid of it. Years where it represented everything I thought I couldn't do. But now, it's the heart of our home, our heat source, our cooking surface. It's part of our daily rhythm. And all it took was tackling one little problem at a time. One fear, one cut through the wall, one chimney pipe, one piece of firewood. You don't need to know everything. You just need to start. If you're working toward your own homestead dreams, a wood stove, solar, chickens, or a tiny home, just know this: you don't need permission, you don't need perfection, you just need to take the next step, and then the next. If I can do this, anyone can. Thanks for watching, and make sure you subscribe for the next part of our tiny home off-grid journey.